My dad has skin cancer. Don't worry, I'm not going to show any gross images or anything of the sort, but I'm just going to say that it's not your average cancerous mole either. I don't think I'll suffer the same fate because I'm a judicious user of sunscreen, but this has reinforced a very valuable lesson, namely that having a heritage that has gifted me darker skin that doesn't burn is no guarantee of protection from the sun. And don't just take it from me, even Andy Roddick had the exact same message on his Awesome Served podcast.
So I spent all morning, I've dealt with kind of various types of skin cancer since I stopped playing. Had a squamous cell tumor taken out of my lip probably like 5 or 6 years ago. Haven't ever talked about it. This morning we went into this face laser fucking thing. That's why, for those of you watching on YouTube, it looks like I got in a fight. It stinks. I think I'm gonna be a general kind of like hatchet job for the rest of my life. Won't go into the woe is me part of it because nothing is wrong, everything is good. But use sunscreen, put sunscreen on your kids, especially if they are tennis players. The problem won't present itself when the kid is 8, but it might present itself when that kid is grown and is 38.
So if you don't use sunscreen, then please, please, please strive to break that habit. If all that stands in your way, as it once did for me, is that sunscreens are heavy, goopy, gross, and leave a white cast, especially for darker skin tones, then boy do I have some recommendations for you that are going to change that. Skip to this time if you just want to get to the sunscreen recommendations and how I personally use them. But I want to go above and beyond and tell you how to take care of your skin if you are a mostly outdoor racket sports player, and especially if you have really oily skin like I do. This has always been a struggle for me because most skincare products are geared towards dry skin types, and greaseballs like me have entirely different needs. As an example, I've never found a moisturizer light enough for my skin type. So I'll show you what I use in just a bit. I also have acne-prone skin that is scarred and rough in texture. Basically, it compounds any skincare challenges and makes things even harder than they need to be. I can personally attest to this. If you already hate using sunscreen, then these challenges are not going to make you want to use sunscreen as a daily habit. So keep watching because I'm going to make some product recommendations that are incredibly light, and they change the oily skincare game for me. I'll also be super real with you and talk about some solutions for adult acne if you happen to suffer from it like I do. Skip to this time if you just want these skincare recommendations and how I personally use them, and to this time if you just want to hear me get real about adult acne. In addition to making all these recommendations, I will also take some time to explain the why behind it all. Well, because I'm an engineer and it's always been in my nature to understand the why behind the way things behave the way they do. So I'll do this as simply as I possibly can and in a way I wish that someone had been able to when I was struggling to figure out oily skincare all those years ago and felt like I was spinning my wheels. Now that I'm in a place where I have my skincare mostly figured out, I find that I have also gained a new perspective, which is to see oily skin as a gift rather than a curse. Keep watching because I'll talk more about this when I explain the why behind oily skincare. Now that we have all of this out of the way in this very long intro, let's get going because as is common in my videos, it's going to have a lot of detail. I'll make the skincare recommendations right off the bat and then go into a bit more detail talking about them. Okay, there are 3 steps in my simple skincare routine. The first is to cleanse or clean your skin, then to hydrate it, and then to protect it. And these are the products I use to accomplish each step, and therefore these are the ones that I'm going to be recommending. These are the sunscreens, these are the moisturizers or hydrators I like to call them. That's a better word for what you need for oily skin. And this is what I use as a cleanser, which is baby shampoo because it is gentle AF. If you are here just for these recommendations, well, now you got them, and they are linked down in the description below. No affiliates or anything like that, they're just there so I can point you in the right direction. I want you to be able to trust me on this because skin cancer is no joke, and influencers peddling new products in every video they earn money from isn't conducive to establishing that trust. You can skip to this time if you just want to know how I use these products. For the rest of you, this video is broken up into 5 parts. The first will go over some basic concepts that you need to know in order to start taking care of your really oily skin. Then the second, the third, and the fourth parts detail each of the 3 steps in my skincare routine and how I use the products that I'm recommending. The fifth part deals with some miscellaneous tips and some details that will help those struggling with adult acne like I do. Okay, the first thing you need to understand is that your body, being 70% water, has way more of it than your ambient environment. So this means that similar to a hot mug of tea coming to an equilibrium temperature that's similar to what's in its environment, there's always going to be a driving force for water to want to leave your body and into the ambient environment. This is especially true for your skin because it holds a lot of water and it's porous. This is why your skin produces oil, to prevent this from happening, because oil and water don't mix, and this layer of oil on top of your skin helps to retain more water than you normally would. Understanding this is what made me realize that my oily skin is a gift rather than a curse. I don't need any external moisturizers or face creams like folks with dry skin do, because my body is fully capable of protecting me as it should. This is what the real purpose of a moisturizer is, to act as that protective layer that your body is supposed to naturally produce. This is also why I've always struggled with sunscreens. In North America at least, they're all mostly oil-based, so they just add an additional layer of oil that just clogs pores and leads to acne. Even if that wasn't the case, I just feel so uncomfortable with sunscreen applied. I've always wanted to wash my face or take a shower as soon as I've put it on. Apply every 2 hours, my ass. Does anyone actually do that? A stupid thing that happens with folks like me that have particularly oily skin or produce thicker than normal body oils is that you tend to want to strip your skin of it because it's genuinely uncomfortable, and you tend to do it by overwashing your face. This does strip the oil off your face, but it also strips the moisture in your skin. Remember, oil serves to help retain water, right? Well, now you got oily and dry skin. Your body freaks out because it senses a lack of moisture in your skin and starts overproducing oil to help retain whatever moisture you do have left. Well, congratulations. Now you're stuck in a vicious cycle that will never really get better unless you learn how to hydrate your skin properly. And if you suffer from acne, then you will also have acne that you will never be able to truly control because the excess oil will always lead to clogged pores. So let me show you how I use these products to break this vicious cycle. Okay, for this first cleansing step, I use this baby shampoo. It's Johnson's & Johnson's Cotton Touch Newborn Wash and Shampoo, and I came across this completely by accident. A while back, I got an eye infection, and my doctor asked that I give my eye area a thorough cleaning twice a day while recovering. Now, if you use regular cleansers or soap for this, it's next to impossible because they sting like crazy. So he recommended that I use baby shampoo. And I just ended up washing my face with it because if you're washing your eye area, your face is like, well, right there. And I was shocked by how gentle it was. It definitely felt like the oil had been stripped, but it didn't make me feel like it stripped moisture from my skin. I just felt clean, for lack of a better word, to be honest. So I've been using it ever since. I feel that if this is good enough for newborn skin, then it's good enough for my oily skin. I can't recommend it enough, although personally, I think I'm comfortable using any baby shampoo or face wash or baby wash for this purpose. If you're cleansing when you have sunscreen on, then you should really wash your face twice. Some sunscreens don't really come off on the first wash, and there's good research that has established that as a fact. One of my recommendations, this one in particular, is in this camp definitely, and I'll show this in action when I get to the sunscreens part. Now, the second step is to hydrate your skin. Arguably, this is the most important step for me. Now, in an ideal world with oily skin, you shouldn't have to do this, right? But no cleanser is gentle enough not to strip away some moisture at the very least. And that's especially true if your starting point is dry and oily skin. So to put hydration back into your skin, I use this. This is a Japanese product called Hatamogi Skin Conditioner. And it's made by a brand called Naturie. I think you can see it better on this thing. And I'll talk about this in just a bit too. Okay, remember how normal moisturizers are a no-go because they're just too heavy and oil-based? Well, this thing is basically a liquid water-based moisturizer. It's super light and watery in consistency, so it's perfect for grease balls like me, and it's never, ever sticky once it's applied and it dries. Just let me show you, it's crazy. It's just literally like water. Or the best way to describe this is the water started feeling dry after I started using this. The key ingredient in this thing is something called hatamogi extract, and hatamogi is just a grain-bearing tropical plant, which in English is called Job's Tears, I believe, and it's been around in Asia for a very, very long time. It's been cooked with, made tea with, and everything in between, I think. So all you have to do to use this properly is to put about yay much, maybe even a bit more, this much, into the palm of your hand, and then just kind of rub it and then gently pat this onto your face and wait for it to dry. And that's it, really. Naturie themselves actually recommend repeating this 3 times, so essentially to layer it. But that advice, I think, is geared more towards less oily to normal skin types. I find doing this once is usually enough for my very, very oily skin. And I only increase the frequency of doing this to 2 times when it's the middle of winter here in Canada and super dry. You can even use this on the rest of the body, like I do in the winter time here, or sheet mask with this, but for brevity's sake, I will leave a link to their website down in the description below that shows all the different ways in which you can use this amazing skin conditioner. I've even tried putting or mixing this with a little bit of oil and putting this in a spray bottle. And again, in the dead of the winter here in Canada, when it's minus 30 degrees Celsius and super dry, I find that works amazingly on the rest of my body, which is not that oily. It's only really my face that gets super greasy. I honestly cannot recommend this thing enough. I love this so much. It's not that there aren't others like this, but this has a hard to describe quality to it because it leaves your skin with such a beautiful finish that I've never really found in any other product. I've tried others like this, of course, especially in Japan, but I keep coming back to this over and over again. Now, if you grew up in Japan, there is no way you don't know about this. This is an icon there and has won so many awards. If you're a millennial in Japan, there's a good chance you used this growing up, or at least knew of someone in your circle of friends who used it. There are other products in this line that are effectively heavier versions of these, like this one, and I'll talk about them in just a bit. But just know that there is a 14-year gap between when this skin conditioner first came out in 2002 and then the next product in this line, which is just impressive staying power for a brand to have with just one product. The absolute best thing about this, other than how it performs, is its cost effectiveness. In Japan, it's around 650 yen, which is like $4 US. For this gigantic half a liter bottle that lasts me 1 to 2 months, depends on how liberally I'm using it. And unfortunately, if you live overseas from Japan, as I do, then of course it's more expensive because it's imported. But it's still affordable when compared to other options available here in Canada or the US. When I import it, and I'll leave the links down to the website where I get this from, it's very easily accessible. It's around $15 USD or $20 Canadian per bottle once it's shipped to North America. I personally buy 10 or 20 of these at a time, and that has 2 benefits. One is that it is slightly cheaper per bottle this way, and 2 is that I don't really have to worry about running out for a little while. Like I can easily, I think, get through, 8 months to a year with 20 bottles. So irreplaceable. I love this so much. Okay, if you're wondering why this is labeled as a skin conditioner as opposed to like moisturizer or liquid moisturizer, well, that's because Japan loves using the most random words to name products. As an example, anything moisturizing that is slightly heavier and less watery than this, but also in a liquid form, is also sometimes referred to as a lotion. So if you happen to want to try out others like this, then hopefully this little tidbit acts as a guide to leave you less confused. Okay, here's an example of what I mean. This is also a skin conditioner that's geared towards oily skin types from a brand called Hyaluronic. And even though this is also very watery, it's not quite as light as the one from Naturie. This one is labeled as a skin conditioning lotion, so that's even more fodder for confusion. I don't recommend this, by the way. It smells a bit weird to me, and the one from Naturie, like this one, literally does everything better and has that amazing finish that leaves your skin looking amazing. Another reason this is called a skin conditioner is because it's not a magic product. It works over time and needs consistent use to see meaningful results. This is a feature of a lot of Japanese skincare products where the focus tends to be on maintaining the healthy condition of your skin. That's where the conditioner name comes from. As opposed to being a treatment of sorts, which is common with skincare here in North America. And this is also why Japanese skincare products tend to be very, very mild and not harsh whatsoever. So this is really suitable for any skin types, whether you have sensitive skin or not. If you have eczema or rosacea, I think this will even work for you very well, because I have eczema, or used to. It's resolved for the most part, and I give a lot of credit to this thing among, sleep, diet, and exercise. For me personally, it was around 2 weeks of using this where I noticed a change and started wondering why my skin felt and looked so good. Then I forgot to use it one day and very quickly realized after looking at myself in the mirror at the end of that day just how much this Hatamogi skin conditioner had done for my skin. And things have only improved from that point forward. Okay, I want to mention 2 other products in this line that are effectively heavier versions of this thing. This is the skin conditioning gel, which honestly looks like and behaves exactly like the Watery skin conditioner, except just a more intense version of this. This is the lightest gel I have ever come across. It just basically disintegrates into water. And I know a lot of people describe gel-like moisturizers like this, and I hate that description because it's never watery-like for me, especially for my oily skin. But this actually is like water. It will be a little sticky because it is just heavier and more intense of it. Version of it, but I think if you have mildly oily skin or combo skin, or you just prefer lighter gel-like moisturizers that have a very watery-like feel, then you have to give this one a try. I do use this from time to time, mostly when I'm being lazy and I don't want to apply multiple layers of the skin conditioner in the winter. Okay, the last one is the skin conditioning milk, which is way too heavy for me. I only ever use this in the harshest, driest Canadian winter on my calves, which is the only dry patch I have on my body. But within the realm of moisturizers, I think this is incredibly light. So feel free to try this if your skin type is normal, which is to say neither oily or dry, but I feel the need to wash my hands almost as soon as I put this on. Okay, before I move on, I want to make an honorable mention for a hydrator. This is by a Korean brand called Isntree, and it is specifically geared towards folks with dry and oily skin types. Again, ignore the toner label because the Koreans also seem to like naming things so that they are confusing. But honestly, all this is a very effective way of putting hydration back into your skin. And I'm splitting hairs, but this is just a tad bit heavier than the Naturie skin conditioner. So it feels ever so slightly more hydrating, but it performs almost exactly like the one from Naturie. I don't use it because for my skin, it doesn't quite have that finish I prefer from the Naturie one, but it is still quite amazing and an unknown gem in my opinion. If you're not a total grease ball like me, then I think you should give this a try. Personally, I've tried using both the Isntree and the Naturie skin conditioner together by layering them on top of each other. So apply this one first and then this one after, or vice versa. And I've been happy with the results, to be honest. But again, for my very oily skin type, I only really need to do that in the depths of a harsh Canadian winter. And if I'm doing that, why would I just not use, this one thing that gives me the amazing finish that I like? But yeah, I just wanted to make mention of this because you may find that you need just a little bit more, and this might cut it. Again, it's a hidden gem. Highly recommend this. So finally, the last step, protecting the skin from the sun, which is why I made the video to begin with, the sunscreens. For folks with drier skin types, like my better half, they would now slap on even heavier moisturizers before they even think about SPF, even though they had already put something on. But for folks like me with oily skin, you don't really need any of that. You just need to focus on your SPF choice because that can act as both an additional moisturizer if you need it, I don't, and sun protection. My focus has always been on finding sunscreens that do very little on the moisturizing end because, like I said, I don't need it. The reason I'm recommending these, and these are Japanese sunscreens, is because most sunscreens in North America suck ass. They are heavy, goopy, and leave a white cast that is so hard to remove that I often feel like I need a pressure washer in order to do so. So I don't know why this is the case, but I've always found the mildest sunscreens to be from Japan, and that's why I'm recommending these. I actually use these two in conjunction with each other by layering them. And the first layer is always this one from Skin Aqua called Super Moisture UV Gel. The best thing about this is that it is friendly to darker skin tones. Okay, it is very closely followed by the fact that this is the lightest most watery-like sunscreen I have personally ever come across. Like, it just, like, look at this. It just basically disintegrates to nothing, and it absorbs so quickly. That's it. It's done. No difference between this hand that doesn't have sunscreen and this one where I just applied a little bit of sunscreen. Okay, this combination is really, really hard to find. Rarely has a sunscreen ever left me feeling that I could leave it on. This unfortunately doesn't mean that it's perfect, because it still does leave me feeling sticky and has a shinier finish. For my super oily skin, at least. My better half doesn't. She can put it on and probably wants like 6 different layers of this on because she has dry skin. I personally want my skin to look like I just washed it, stripped of oil and with a matte finish. And because that is the case, this is where the second sunscreen comes in. Okay, and this is the UV Perfect Milk by Bioré. And despite the French name, this is a Japanese brand. Okay, the Japanese love their French products, or French-sounding products, I should say. First of all, okay, look at the consistency of this thing. Okay, it's water, right? Like, look at this thing. It is completely like water. I had no idea sunscreens could be this watery. I fucking love it. It's so good. Like, look, right? It's like water. And second, and this is a double-edged sword, this is the most mattifying, powdery, and drying product I have ever come across. It has some oil-absorbing powder in it that will legit leave your skin dehydrated, because you will lose any and all protection that your skin naturally provides. So please, please, please do not apply this on bare skin. I applied it on my bare arms once, and they ended up looking like a dried lake bed in Nevada for like the next 3 days until I could get the hydration levels back by applying copious amounts of this stuff twice a day. Okay, but the reason I'm recommending this is because alone it's not that good, but on top of a moisturizer or a light sunscreen such as this one, this thing is magic. It keeps me both looking and feeling fresh and matte, as if I had just washed my skin for like 6 to 8 hours, depending on, of course, the climate and temperature. Like, seriously, I was at a convention in Las Vegas recently, which for some reason was air conditioned to hell to resemble a Canadian winter. And in that environment, I had no problem with long and busy 12-hour days, okay? Not once did I feel the need to wash my face. Having a look at myself in the mirror also confirmed what I felt. So this thing is amazing. Like I said, it will keep you looking fresh and matte because of that oil-absorbing, powder that it has in it. It's amazing. And combined with that watery texture that it has, really, honestly, you cannot get something lighter than this. It's perfect for oily skin. Now, there are 2 downsides to this thing. One is that it leaves a pretty noticeable white cast. I know the camera doesn't pick this up on my hand, but on my face for sure, you can see this white cast. Okay, and I'll talk about how I get around it in just a bit. Okay. The second disadvantage or downside is that it is quite heavily alcohol based, and it smells like it too. So if you're sensitive to products with alcohol, then this might be a no-go. Okay, but personally, I actually prefer products with alcohol in them because they tend to have a drying effect that my oily skin prefers. This one also is alcohol based, I believe, but feels a lot less alcohol-y than this thing does. This actually does, I mean, I'm exaggerating, feels like a bottle of vodka compared to this, which might be beer, I don't know, just an example. Okay, so about the white cast. Because I layer this thing and combine it with this other Skin Aqua sunscreen, I don't use as much of this as I would if this was my sole sunscreen. Okay, so the white cast is not really noticeable on my skin tone, at least. Okay, I'm sure there's a way of describing, or a technical way of describing skin tones, which I don't know of, I'm not aware of it, but if it helps, I always use the third middle of the road emoji skin tone because I actually feel that it describes me pretty well. Okay, now the usual recommendation for applying sunscreen is 2 fingers worth, right, for your entire face, and then an additional one for your neck. So 3 fingers worth if you were to put sunscreen on your fingers. And what I will do is I will usually substitute one of these 3 fingers, like this one, for example, for this Bioré Perfect Milk, and these 2 fingers will be this one. Okay. I don't mix them together, but what I do is I apply the Skin Aqua one first, I let it dry, and then I apply the Bioré one all over it. If you have a darker skin tone like me, then you might see a noticeable white cast initially, or a mild noticeable white cast initially, but as this thing dries, it basically fades away. Every time you've seen me on camera in my videos, I've had these sunscreens on, okay? And I pixel peep a lot as I'm editing my videos. I don't notice them, so if you notice them, I mean, I don't think you do, but I don't notice them. So I think this white cast is totally, you know, I can deal with it if I use them how I'm describing my usage to you guys. Okay, another positive to this Bioré UV Perfect Milk is that it is very water and sweat resistant. So it's actually pretty great for sweaty outdoor tennis or outdoor pickleball sessions in the middle of summer when the sun's intensity tends to be at its peak. Although I must say that if you are a profuse sweater like me, especially from the head or the top of your head, and you wipe your face often, then this will come off during your session and you may need to reapply it. But again, it depends on folks. Most people sweat, you know, differently. And if you sweat from your neck or from the rest of your body and not from the top of your head, like I do, then the chances that this will stay on your face for the entirety of your session is much, much higher. One final note about this Bioré UV Perfect Milk. Because it is very water resistant, it does not wash off easy. Okay, so just beware. You will have to wash your face twice with whatever cleanser you choose to use when you're trying to get it off at the end of the day. The first time I wash it, this cleanser or soap doesn't like even lather or foam. Okay, and that's common, right? Imagine just washing a pan full of bacon grease or something like that. But during the second wash, this thing does foam up, and I can feel confident when that happens that I've gotten most of this thing or all of it off. Okay, before I end this section on sunscreens, I have an honorable mention for a sunscreen that doesn't quite work for me. But again, if you're not a total greaseball like I am, then I think it's worth a try. It's by this brand called Isntree, the same brand that I talked about for the hydrator I mentioned earlier. Okay, it's quite light in texture, like almost gel-like, not quite, but almost gel-like. And it's the problem I have with this is that it's quite intensely moisturizing, and it has a little bit of a shiny finish, which I don't think the camera picks up, but trust me, it is. And the shiny finish does not work for my oily skin because it makes me look even greasier. But I wanted to mention this because I can see myself using this together with the Bioré UV Perfect Milk during the middle of a harsh Canadian winter as I get older and my skin becomes drier. Okay, so I think this is worth the consideration, or at least the combination of this. Yeah. Okay, that was a long video, but I wanted to give you sufficient details, especially about my own personal experiences and solutions that allowed me to use sunscreen regularly, especially when playing sports outdoors in the summer. I wanted to relay my own personal experience because if you find that you relate to them, then hopefully they can be a starting point for your own solutions. Again, skin cancer is no joke, and the best time to take care of a problem is when it hasn't reared its ugly head. My dad would say the same. So be proactive rather than reactive. And if you can, please share your own personal experiences down in the comments below. We're all different, and what's worked for me may not work for someone else. But hopefully, if enough of us share our own personal experiences, we can all learn from each other to craft our own personal solutions. I want to end with some miscellaneous tips and hopefully some helpful advice if you suffer from adult acne like I do. Miscellaneous tips first. I want to make sure that I get across the fact that topical products such as the ones I've shared today with you or the ones that you already use are not a one-stop solution for skincare. The vast majority of your health originates from having healthy habits. So sleep, diet, and exercise. The most important of these, by a very wide margin, is sleep. And if you don't focus on that first, then you limit the effectiveness of everything else that comes on top. In my head, this concept is constructed like a pyramid, with sleep at the very foundation. For me, the best thing I've ever done for my health is focus on good sleep, and it shows on my acne-prone skin. Having said that, I personally found that I need to exercise to help me get my diet on point, which then helps me get my sleep on point. So even though sleep is the most important thing, I think it's completely okay to approach it the other way around by focusing on it through sport and exercise. I did what felt natural to me, and I think you should too. And it doesn't really matter. As long as you make consistent, steady progress in the right direction, you'll eventually get there. The time it takes to get there is kind of irrelevant. So there's a whole important aspect to sun protection that I haven't talked about, which is SPF clothing like this. If you hate putting sunscreen on, like I do for the most part on most of my body, then this is just as good of an option. So don't discount that. There are physical protections available too. This is one of my most prized possessions that I got off of Amazon for like 20 bucks or 25 bucks or so. So yeah, I highly recommend stuff like this. I've also talked about this in my Australian Open video, because when we visited the Australian Open, we found that the sun was just insane in Australia, and the shading that the tournament provided was pretty inadequate. So go watch the video because I talk a lot about what to do if you are visiting tennis tournaments, because sun protection there, when you're there for all day in an outdoor environment, is just as important as protecting yourself for an hour or two on the court. Lastly, if you, like me, are almost 40 and still struggle with acne and breakouts, then I'm sorry to say, my friend, you have transitioned into adult acne. And although it may go away on its own, it's unlikely to do so, no matter how healthy your habits or how well you take care of your skin. This was my case. For adult acne to go away, you need medication, which is what I needed. The specifics can look different for different people, but in the US at least, some of this medication is available over the counter. In Canada, where I live, it is not. But in my case, it was a simple prescription that combined both topical and oral medications. I highly recommend visiting a doctor or a dermatologist, because this multi-pronged approach that only a trained professional can take is why I think my own adult acne is mostly in the rearview mirror behind me. I say this while fully aware that healthcare in both the US and Canada is becoming harder to access and becoming a privilege when it shouldn't be. If you are in this camp, then I want to say that I'm sorry, and I really wish that this wasn't the case. But I wanted to share my own personal experiences anyways, because if you weren't aware of potential solutions, you are now, and you are now in a better position to act when the opportunity arises. At the end of the day, if you find yourself in this adult acne camp, then I want to say that I understand your frustration, and I want you to know that there are solutions out there. At the very least, I hope that some of what I've said can help you level up your self-care.